thing pending and you want to understand more about something, so you can always ask me, right, towards the end of the session, right? No, we can take up the topic. I can revise whatever we have discussed in our earlier classes, right? So in the interest of time, as our syllabus is huge, right? So we have to focus on the subject, right? So let's move on. So today's topics are transfer acceleration, right? With respect to Amazon S3, right? So CloudFront, we'll be discussing about the storage classes that you may be having a little bit of idea already, right? And then about the life cycle policy, about cost optimization, right? And there is something called snowball service, right? So that we will look at storage gateway, right? Couple of questions after that, and then we'll do some hands-on. We'll host our own static website on S3, right? We'll try to replicate data across regions, right? Cross-region replication, right? And apart from that, we can take a look at some overview of S3 transfer acceleration. And then we'll explore about the lifecycle policy in the AWS services console, right? We'll try to find out where all these options are, and we'll check whatever is possible. Fine, so let's begin with the very first thing, that is transfer acceleration, right? So if you have any confusion with respect to the topic, right, so please feel free to ask, right? If you find that no, okay, whatever query you are having, that can wait towards the and near the break, maybe in the beginning or end of the break, or towards the end of the session, so you can park it and you can ask it at that point of time, so that I can continue with my flow, right? So so this transfer acceleration, right, so as the name suggests, right, so it's about the acceleration, right? So at whatever rate transfer happens, right, that should be accelerated, right? So just think of a situation, right, where you want to transfer heavy data between various regions, right, from one region to another region, or from one particular point to a very far place physically, right? So AWS has its own backbone, the fiber connectivity, right, to connect various regions, right? So we can use the backbone provided by Amazon to make our data transfer faster, right? So that's what you see, like here you see fast, right, easy and secure, right? Three things, three attributes. So transfers files over long distances between client location and an S3 bucket, right? So if you have a situation where you want to transfer huge data, petabytes of data, right, at a very long distance, and if you just simply follow whatever the way S3 works and over the public network and how things are happening, so you may face some latency benefit if you go for transfer acceleration. So as compared to the normal transfer, right, if you go for transfer acceleration in a particular case, right, so this can be useful for you. The data transfer can be fast, security is guaranteed, right, and it is easy. It's like not a complicated thing. So AWS, as they are owning the fiber connections, right, and they have their own backbones, right? So if you utilize it, so they will they are able to optimize the path, right, through which data would transfer, right, so that it would be faster, right? So they are utilizing the benefit of CloudFront, right? So what is a CloudFront? So CloudFront is all about content delivery network. That is a CDN service. So we'll just taking a look at CloudFront as well, right? So I would say like this would be beneficial if there is a really long distance between the 2 points. Right? So you can have a greater benefit in case of there is a great distance between the source and the destination. Right? So the scenarios can be it's like you have a situation where you have your own bucket. Okay, so you have your bucket here, right? And you have your client bucket somewhere else. I'm just giving examples with the S3 itself, the bucket itself, right? So, and now it's like maybe in different region, right? And very far away, or maybe in the same region, but different far away availability zones, right? So if you want to transfer terabytes of data, right, at a higher speed, means at lower latency, at lower latency. Now you're familiar with the terminologies like lower latency. So lower latency means at, it will be faster or slower?
Very high speed.
Very high speed. Faster, right? So if you have to transfer terabytes of data, right, across geographical location, so that can be one use case. Say like another thing, you just think whatever you can think may make sense. So say like some bucket is there, which is a central bucket, right, and accessed by some customer, right, who is in US, right? Another customer you have in Europe, right? Another customer who may be in Asia, right? So you are having a situation where you have a central bucket, right, and various customers across the globe are copying data to this particular central bucket, right? Now, as the about the how this object storage works, right? So the entire data, the entire whatever file you are having, right? So it is not accessed how we access the data on a block storage. Say like you have a data, right, which contains say like 500 MB of code, some bytes, right? So if you just modify say like some 10 bytes or something, so whatever block is impacted by that particular byte, so only that particular block will be changed, that particular data will be changed. But in case of object storage, you know that the entire thing, when you transfer a file, that becomes an object, right? So when it becomes an object, the entire file needs to be copied, right? So it's not about the little bit of thing by default. So whatever you have modified, that needs to be changed or something. So that's the way. This object storage is not, we are not using for our system or something. Just we are not mounting it. Now you know what is mounting and what is mount point. So we'll be doing practicals and we'll be seeing what it is, right? So nothing to worry about it. So now just remember whatever we discussed, just recall, right? So we are not going to mount this bucket, we are not going to mount this storage on the system. However, it is accessed over HTTP, right? So obviously we cannot expect no kind of random IO, right? So things should be quite sequential, right? So when it is sequential, so this given the type of storage, so this becomes important, right? So this transfer acceleration can be useful, right, in a given situation. So you also try to explore further on that. So if you find more information and more use cases, just try to think in that aspect, right? So some kind of logical questions maybe you may expect in your examination, like in what case you may go for it, right? So small distance, large distance, right? So like that certain things will be there. So just take a look. Just try to read whatever theoretical concepts and where you don't have too much of opportunity for practicals, right? So there you just try to get more information, right? And now as we discussed about the CloudFront, right? So CloudFront is, again, that is giving the advantage to transfer acceleration. How they are making it fast, right? So they are utilizing the backbone, they're utilizing the network connectivity, the fiber connectivity that they are having, right? And the benefit of the edge locations that they are having, right? Anybody heard about any of the CDN? CDN, anybody heard?
Yes, Azure CDN.
Okay, great, Buddha. And apart from that, anything other than
Uh,
cloud, even before cloud came?
uh, no, so CDN basically it helps in live streaming, right? I mean, if or a streaming kind of an application wherein YouTube video is being watched over millions of people over the
That is a
globe.
very good example. Yes, Buddha, that is a very good example.
So that's how it is. That's how the concept works. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So,
Like
yeah, anybody wants
content,
to?
it's like content delivery network, I think. The content delivery network.
Correct, Rahul.
CDN
Correct.
stands.
Correct, Rahul. So that's right. So content delivery network, right? So even before we know we have cloud and all those things, right? So earlier also people used to get that content delivery thing, right? So I'm not sure whether you might have heard about Akamai earlier. Akamai.
Yeah.
Akamai.
Akamai,
Yeah.
I heard. Akamai is the name of some company, I guess.
Yeah, the
Yes,
company,
I heard
and
about it.
then
Yes, network company, I think. It's a network provider company.
yeah, so you just now, whenever you get a chance, just try to Google Akamai. So you'll come
I
to
heard. I
know.
even I got some opportunity from that company itself. So
Okay, that's great. That's
so I
great.
heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually awesome thing, right? So you have that's no. I work with the kind of technology whatever they provided in some of my previous work assignments and all. So that's like awesome service they provided, right? And similar to that, we have Amazon CloudFront, right? And it's a very fast CDN service, right? And actually, as you told, it's all about delivering the content, right? So whatever content is there means whatever files are there, right? Whatever are to be, whatever developers want to distribute, or whatever your organization, your business wants to distribute to whom? To the end users, right? You want to distribute something, some files, some data, right? Over very long distances, right? And you are looking for some kind of security and low latency and high transfer speed and kind of a friendly environment for that, right? So CDN is the solution. Content delivery network is the solutions. So what happened, right? They will have kind of backbone, right? The fiber connectivity, and then there will be edge locations. There will be edge locations. You might have heard about proxy servers or something which will be storing some cache, right?
Yes, I heard.
So exactly, you will have the proxy servers, right? You will have the option where your data, your files, your content will be
Stored.
distributed
Yes.
and cached at the edge locations. Getting it? So let me just try to be a little more. No, let me just with help of a diagram. Let me try to explain. So you are going to build, say, like today in a hands-on, you are going to build your website, right? So this is your instance, right? Or think of kind of whatever server, right? So this server where you are going to build your own website, so that is original website server. Okay, so let me call it origin. Original, right? So let me call it origin. From where something originates will be origin, right? So this is the origin. From here you have hosted your website. Here you have put all your content. Here, your developers are putting the content for the very first time. This is the place which is owned by you. This may be in your own premises. This may be your owned EC2 instance, or this may be whatever place where your website content is hosted. Just any arbitrary place. Now you have the content here, right? So those contents will go to AWS CloudFront. Now this is giving you some API, right, through which you are communicating here. So your content, right, is now where it is going to CloudFront. So now these two things are connected, and all your content will be going to CloudFront. Now, what CloudFront will do? It has its own mechanism. It has its own backbone, fiber connectivity, right, to transfer the data at a high speed, right? So now you have edge location. We call it as edge location, where it will be, say, like edge location 1, I will tell. And you have edge location 2. Okay, so you have edge location 1, you have edge location 2, right? And now it will be sending the content right here. Now whenever, say like this is say like in Europe, this is somewhere, say like in US, right? Your customers are very far away, and they are spread over the entire world, right? So now, say like you're here in say like your origin is there in Asia, right? So if you just want your content to be accessed by people, your customers in Europe and US, obviously it will have a bigger latency, right? So it won't be that much efficient, and it won't be that much better performance. You'll not get higher latency, some breakdown, some issues will be there, right? And then again, a lot of load on your server and a lot of other aspects to that, whatever you can think of, right? So you are offloading, right, whatever content, what you are just offloading all operational overhead, all security, everything, right? And now it is creating a cache. It is creating a cache there, that edge location. Here also it is creating the cache, the edge location. Now here the customers are accessing the nearest location, right? Whatever is the nearest to them, obviously latency will be low, right? Make sense?
So Harish, this CloudFront as in what is it? It is the proxy service, or is it the
CDN service? CDN means content delivery network service. So that's what various you need edge locations, you need a backbone, you need proxy servers at the edge locations where you can store the cache. The mechanism should be there. You should have storage there at the edge location where whatever content are coming from the origin, right? So that will be accessed by the end users. So yes. What happens here, say like in Europe and US, somebody wants to access clicks on a particular link on your website, and they want to access a particular content, and that content is say like not there in the edge location, correct? Now it will go, the request will go to CloudFront. CloudFront will take it from the origin, right? So that will be a miss. So that will be a miss. There will be concept of hit and miss, right? So at the end of the month, you will have a control panel where you can go log in and check. Oh, only 80% utilized, and then you can go to the this CDN provider, and you can tell that no, why it is 80% content is cached, and I have a burden of 20% on my origin server. This is not fair enough. What should we do to enhance the hit, right? So it should go to edge location. So all my data, all things that caching should be proper. It's not happening something wrong. So now you are understanding.
Yes, yes. So entire setup of this, CDN in AWS world is called the AWS CloudFront.
Correct, correct. So it's a kind of service that they will be exposing to you via some API, right? How other services like S3 you are getting, or some kind of option you are getting, right? So overall, this entire service you call as content delivery network, AWS CloudFront, like that you call it. However, for end use for say like S3, customer. Yeah.
Okay. So S3 utilizes CloudFront. That's why it is so fast. You're trying to say.
S3 can utilize it, yeah, definitely, and not only about S3. Why not EC2? Why not other things? Why not on-premises thing? Anything can utilize CloudFront, right?
Oh, see, okay. It is not associated with S3 and all. It is.
S3 can
it is
also
something
utilize.
That you need to select. You can. Okay. No, I thought. No. In the backend of S3, it is CloudFront, because of which S3 is so fast.
No. That transfer acceleration in the backend of transfer acceleration, that CloudFront is there. That's why transfer acceleration is so fast. Okay. Just the previous concept we were looking at, right?
So we are saying even if it is EFS or some other storage, and if we want to increase the transfer rate, we can go for CloudFront.
Whatever is there on the origin server doesn't matter, Shweta. Whatever is there on the origin server doesn't matter. You can use CDN service, right? Irrespective of what you are having in the origin, right? So whatever you are having, that content needs to be transferred to CloudFront, right? Say like you are having some kind of EC2, right? On your origin, on EC2 you are running your website, or on S3 you are running your website. Doesn't matter. What CloudFront wants is the content. You give the content from wherever you want. Got it? Making sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how it works, and it's let me tell you, really it is super fast service, and it's a great service to get it utilized, right? So without any doubt. Now let's go to the next one, where we are. So as you see here in the slide, I have mentioned about the various features, right? So you can just see like it's integrated with AWS, and security and low latency and high transfer speeds and developer friendly environment. So to get more knowledge on it, just try to find out some article on AWS website, right? And just try to go through it one more time, whenever, maybe later. So once you go one more time, just read the theoretical concept, how it is, right? So then you will be able to relate to what I am saying today, right? So this is the first time you are hearing, then you might be finding, oh my God, what it is. So just go through it one more time, right? And come back if you have any question tomorrow. Fine. Now, the very next thing, the most important in S3 that I have been telling, right? So that is about the storage classes. Storage classes, very important, right? So how it is important, right? Just see what it is, then you will understand how it is important. So this is for any object that you are storing, right? There will be one storage class associated for any object. So whenever we created a bucket, whenever we kept some object, right? So if you simply say upload, you will not come to know what storage class it has gone to. That will be by default S3 standard, that is the default. However, if you just do some next, and at the end you will see like, oh, it's asking for some storage classes, right? So we will be looking at it, various storage classes, and we'll be trying to move things from here to there. And we'll be, so now just have understanding of why so many classes, right? And what may be the region for differentiating into different classes. So this is all based on the requirement, right? What customers require, right? With respect to availability, durability, right? And other aspects on the purpose, right? So they have defined various classes, right? So the standard one, the S3 standard, right? The very first one. So this is what? Frequently accessed data. So you just want your data to be simply available at all times, right? So you don't want to compromise on the availability, right? So by default you go for S3 standard, right? So this is the default one. And you remember we were discussing about the S3 durability, where we discussed about 11 nines of durability, correct? No, 11 nines of durability and 4 nines of availability. So this one is having 11 nines of durability, right? Right? 99.9 times 9. Right? Now, if we talk about the availability, so it would be 4 nines. 4 nines of availability. 4 nines means what? 4 nines availability.
36 points.
Pardon?
Is it 36 points? 4 by 9?
No.
99.99. 9099. Yes.
99.99. Correct. That's it. 99, 4 nines of availability means 99.99. Yeah. So that is 99.99 availability means what? 99.99% availability, right, per year. Understood? So when we say like 11 nines of durability means, no? 11 nines of durability per year.
Yes.
Correct. So now if we talk about availability, 4 nines means 99.99% it will be available. That much it will be available. If you just look at the second one, right? What it says, IA means what? Infrequent access. IA means infrequent access. So everything remains same, right? As above, it says S3 standard -IA, right? So this is for long-lived means durable, right? Infrequently accessed data. Now you see the difference here. IA, as the name suggests, right? So it says infrequently accessed data. So you may have a situation where, right, you don't want to access your data very frequently, right? So you are sure that you are going to not use it very frequently or something, right? So in that case, what you will do? You'll go for infrequent access. Now let me tell you, right, from the very beginning that this list what you are looking, right? So should be, if you go from up to down, so this is standard class, and then the next one will be cheaper as compared to the above. Okay, this will be cheaper, but this is not the case, right? So this is not. This should, if I put it there in between, then that pricing sequence will be proper. Anyways, so I just kept this IA here because I just wanted to explain you the IA, then intelligent tiering. So IA is just like similar, same durability and all, but what is different here?
Infrequent. It's not available all the time. Availability
is less. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So you don't want to access it frequently, right? So, but whenever you need it, remember, whenever you need it, it must be what? Available to you immediately. It's not like, no, today you want and tomorrow you will get. Not like that. So you want to access, whenever you want to access, you access it. You will get it. But there is no latency or something here. See, it's same thing with respect to latency. But what is the difference? 11 nines of durability also there, but availability is reduced by 1 9. So now it will be 3 nines of availability. So 3 nines of availability means what? 99.9.
99.9.
99.9%. If you look at intelligent tiering, right? What do you think? as I indicated, you have two things above it, right? So it's intelligent also. And then it says long-lived data with changing or unknown access pattern. If you know what is the access pattern for your data, right, you will obviously put it in standard if it is to be accessed very frequently, 1,000 times in a day. If it is you want to access it infrequently, if you are sure that no, you don't have to access so much, right? So in that case, you will definitely put it in a standard IA, right? Now, right, the situation where you don't know, you have mix of data, so some situation where 20% of your data may be very frequently accessed, which is a very practical thing. Whatever data you are having, it's not necessary that all the data you will be accessing at all times very frequently, right? So say like some 20% of data is very frequently accessed and some 80% of data is not frequently accessed. Now you don't know which data you can put in IA and which data you can put in standard class. So in that case, you put it in intelligent tiering. Got it? Now what will happen? Some kind of monitoring will happen. They will start doing some monitoring. Then what they will do? They will do some automation. What kind of automation? They will put the frequently accessed data in S3 standard and infrequently accessed data in S3 standard IA. In your place, they will be doing it automatically, right, in the back end. So 20% of your data will be sent to S3 standard and 80% will be sent to infrequent access. Now that you are paying a very small fee, right, for that monitoring and automation, right? But what is happening here? As the standard IA is cheaper, your 80% cost will be at cheaper rate, and standard one is costlier, so 20% only, right? For 20% only you will be paying little higher cost. So whatever is the actual utilization of the storage, that much only you will be paying, right? But apart from that little bit of amount for monitoring and automation, so what happens here? Still it is better option, right, as compared to infrequent IA, right, when it comes to unknown data pattern. So this will be a kind of, even if it is 50-50, right, still the pricing will be where? In between only, right? This intelligent tiering prices will fall between these two, correct? Higher than IA, but lower than standard, right? Making sense? You understood? Hello, anybody? Anybody understood? Then please explain it. What you understood by intelligent tiering?
Data will be available for this in this one S3 intelligent tiering, right? With changing on unknown access pattern. As per this one, we are dividing data into S3 standard and S3 standard IA, right? So in differentiating, distributing, we can say.
Okay, so who is doing it?
Intelligent tiering.
Intelligent,
yeah.
Are we doing
intelligent tiering?
No. Probably that some machine learning or something is used by S3, and they do some,
some process.
Intelligence. Yeah.
Okay.
Some process will be
correct. So some automation will be there in place, right? Yeah. Some monitoring will be happening, right? We are not doing anything, right? We just sleep nicely, and we just put it our data in intelligent tiering, and they will be managing, right, whatever data is to be kept in S3 standard, and which data needs to be kept in intelligent standard IA, right? So they will analyze it, see, based on some kind of access pattern. See, they will have all the information, what we are doing, what we are keeping, where which data is getting accessed, how many times it is getting accessed, everything will be there. So based on that, those learnings, right, based on those patterns of the access of the data, right, so this class will be moving it from standard to IA, from IA to standard, and that will be a continuous process, ongoing process, right? And it will be cost effective, right? It will be cost effective.
Sir, but then this switching over the data, the intelligence that is being applied, is that chargeable? Because I mean,
Yes.
we'll have to take a judgmental call as to how much we are saving, right?
True. You have to analyze your billing also, whether you are definitely you are getting some benefit or not. Correct? No, you will definitely get benefit, I'm sure. But see, when you don't know the pattern of your data, then 100% you'll get benefited. Just look here. See, you have long-lived data, right? Data needs to decide. There is no option to delete it. Now, pattern you don't know. You don't know means what? You have to pay.
We are going to access this.
You have no choice. You don't know means what? What you will do? You'll put it in the standard. Correct? No? Tell me. If you don't know the access pattern and you know that this is long-lived data, and definitely you need some data are frequently accessed, that is for sure. That some data are frequently accessed. Now, you don't know which data. In that case, what you will do? If this intelligent tiering is not there, obviously you will put it in S3 standard. 100%.
So by default, we can say S3 standard, right? By default.
By default, you will put it in, by default is S3 standard.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the access pattern of a particular data, right, you cannot put it in IA because that is for infrequently accessed, right? So now you'll put it in S3 standard. Now you have a choice. Now you have a choice. Now if you put it here, simply you put it here, you are sure that you will be benefited.
So Haris, based on that, I have one question regarding this S3 standard IA. Okay, as you said that 20% data will be frequently available for us, right?
Example.
And 80% will be infrequent. So as I want to know that if I want to access that 80% data, so how we have to send some request or something like that?
No. You don't have to think.
Suppose I want to access 80% of that infrequent data, then what should I do now?
You see that 80% or 20% or this 15% or 30%, that is, you don't have to think about it. That is for people to analyze, say like how Shweta said that, no, I have to take a call, I have to analyze it, right? So it's just about the analysis, whether how much you are saving, right? From the cost perspective. But from accessing the data, right? End users, you mean like how you told is, I assume that you are an end user, right?
Yes.
So from end users perspective, there is no difference, exactly same. Got it? You simply just click and you will get your data. Got it?
Okay.
Right?
I want to see that because there is some confusion. So
yeah. So this standard is given for free in our free tier. So all these things you will be seeing, right?
We have seen that time when you were giving some.
Yeah. So we are getting this S3 standard as in our free tier. So remaining things are chargeable, and there will be condition where it will be cheaper, right? So there will be a condition that if you are putting it, you have to put it for such a small 30 days.
It depends on our requirement and cost.
Yeah, correct. But that you will not find any difference from the end user perspective or something. The only thing you have to remember is whatever will go to infrequent access, that's availability is how much? Little low, 99.9%. Got it?
Fine.
Okay. Now you come down to S3 one zone IA. Everything is written in the name. No explanation is required. S3 one zone IA. IA means infrequent access.
Infrequent access, yes.
That you know, correct? Now one zone. Now what? all other classes, right? They will be putting your data in 3 or more availability zones for redundancy purpose. But this one is what? One zone, right? One zone means what? It will be in only one zone.
Correct.
So if your data is very crucial and used for some mission critical application or some kind of very valuable data, will you be putting here?
In terms of importance, we are talking about.
Yeah. Very costly data.
Yeah.
Will you be putting in one zone?
No.
Because it's a non-critical data things.
No.
Yeah, correct. So it's only 99.5% available.
So tell me something, when we are talking about infrequently accessed, non-critical and all, should we go for even S3? Because S3 is quite expensive. Can't we go for some EFS and all?
Who is telling that? EFS is the costliest, Shweta. You have to analyze a lot. EFS is the costliest of all the storage in AWS.
This storage, I think we are talking about, Harish, I think we are talking about this
is the
storage.
cheapest one.
Okay.
Yep.
S3 is, okay. I thought
Yeah.
And it's
You
by
have
default.
to read a lot on this storage, right? So we'll be discussing over the period of time. We'll be discussing on EBS and EFS. So we are still there on these topics, right? And meanwhile, you just go and start reading on from the pricing perspective, right? You'll find it. EFS is the costliest one. This is like better. Yeah, Rahul, you were telling something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm telling that we are discussing about this storage classes in terms of AWS, right? This all classes are available. Storage devices are available in AWS by default, right?
AWS, yes, by default.
Yeah, by
These
default,
storage classes are provided by AWS
only,
S3.
Amazon only.
AWS S3.
Right. And other, if we go for EBS or EFS, that will be extra.
Different type, different things.
Different type. Yeah.
Correct.
So
correct.
that is more cost effective and all these things in terms of this Amazon S3 classes, right? Storage classes.
Which one? See,
talking about
first you
EFS
understand that once you decided that you want object storage, right? You cannot think of file storage or you cannot think of block storage. There are different purposes.
Yes.
So we should not get confused when it comes to what you want. That is the very first decision you have to make, whether you want you want object storage or you want a block storage. You want block level changes, you want very fast access, you want instance store, or you want EBS, right? Or your situation is something where you have a central file system where 1,000 people want to access it, right? So, and what is the at file level you want you have a structured hierarchy and a structured file system, those kind of scenario, or you have something which is kind of some static object or some kind of log files or something which doesn't require multiple people to do something on that.
Yeah.
So for what purpose? You have something which you don't want for next 100 years, right? Where do you want to put it? You'll not put it in EFS or you'll not put it on EBS volume, right? For that, we should have some archival storage option. So first thing is to understand, have the clarity of what we want. The very first thing. Once we decide that this is what we want, that's it. We should not go out of it. We decided that we are going to use object storage. I think
so we can put this in S3 one zone that if our data is not required for 100 years.
So do we have some use cases which we can go and as to when is the block storage or when we use function?
Yes. That's what we have to learn, Shweta. Okay, that's what we have to learn, right? So what are the use cases where we will use this, right? And where we so just now I told you if there is some static content, and again Buddha, you rejoin. Buddha,
yes, I'm back. I lost my.
Sure, no problem. So say like Buddha already told some time back, right? So the uses of object storage, right? So where we use object storage, where we can use S3, right? So Buddha, would you like to tell it one more time?
Sorry, I lost the context a little bit.
Context is that's why I asked you, because no, you'll regain the context. So here the situation is, right, when to use no object storage, when to use block storage. Shweta is asking while we are discussing on the various types of storage classes, right? So you already explained some time ago that the object storage is for some kind of what purpose? Say like you have some video, say like you have some kind of thing which you want to keep it, and then you want to access it, which is the data is static, correct?
Correct. So yeah, so any kind
or you
of
have some kind of log files, correct?
Right.
Or you have some where you just don't want very fast access, or something where you just know, while we discuss like block storage can modify the data on the byte level, on the block level, it can simply go and modify a particular block wherever we are making a change. But this object storage, you cannot make changes at the block level. You have to upload the entire file as an object, and the data will be accessed sequentially. You cannot access the data randomly, right? So in last session, I was explaining like how block storage data are accessed, how data will be accessed in the kind of file storage, and how the data will be in object storage, where you don't have option to modify a particular byte, right, directly, correct? No. So all the files will be simply thrown in the storage, and the entire object will be accessible over the HTTP, right? So over the HTTP, right, definitely it will be slower and sequential as compared to other options, correct? Now first thing is to decide which storage you are looking for. You want to reboot you want to install it for your operating system. Will you go for S3? You'll install your operating system in S3. The very first thing is you cannot mount it. You cannot mount it. You cannot use it. Now, if somebody gives you a solution that
Sir,
okay,
can you put everyone on mute, and if you can talk, because there is a lot of background noise.
Yeah, please, all of you, please go on mute one time.
Some sounds are coming from background.
I think because of a bad network, some noise will be there in the network. So please mute yourself if you are not speaking, right?
Please put on mute.
So I can put everyone on mute, but it's better they go on mute themselves, right? So please go on mute. And so Shweta, before we again go to the same context where you are confused like which one to choose, just because you have not seen how EBS is used, you have not seen how EFS is used, you have not gone through any hands-on, right? We have not discussed about EC2. It's like very early, right, to decide which storage you are looking for without having the in-depth knowledge of all the storage classes. So overview, as an overview, you will have the basic understanding, but you cannot decide as of now. So don't get confused. Just wait and
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not lagging behind, it is
No,
fine,
you're not
because I
lagging
was
behind. That is the very right question. Just note it down. That is the very first question, Shweta, that you are asking. That is the most important question. See, if we are not sure which storage I should go for, then there's no use of understanding anything, right? So there are two approaches. One is to know the thing, right, which one I should go for in the very beginning, but that will be very difficult approach, right? You have to just memorize something, that this is meant for that, this is meant for that one. Now like that you have to do. Another thing is to understand all the aspects of all the storage, right? You see it, you just judge it, you understand it. Once you understand, it will be very quick understanding. You will simply decide what I should choose in what situation, right? Right. So that's not an issue. That I'm there with you, right? So nothing to. Now let's look at one zone IA, right? So this is kind of for only one zone, right? Getting everything, everyone. One zone means what? Less availability.
Yes.
Less availability. How much less? 99.9.
99.9. Yeah, 5%.
99.5 only.
Yes, yes.
So all the other classes are storing data in minimum of the 3 availability zones that we will see. And this S3 one zone stores in single availability zone. That's why the name is one zone IA, right? Durability is same, given 9s, but availability is less. Now what? There may be a situation where somebody wants something at cheaper rate. So that's why you have the option. This is cheaper, cost is cheaper, right? So now from here below, if you see, the RRS is anyways not recommended and nobody uses non-critical data. That is not good. Now apart from that, S3 Glacier and S3 Glacier Deep Archive, these two things you just take a look. These two things are no different here. These two things are not similar to the above ones, right? So this is S3 Glacier and this is S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So these two things are something else. Just who can tell me what it is? Those are archiving solutions. What is that? Archiving solutions. Archiving solution you heard about, or you can relate.
Yes, yes. I mean, the data which is like very old data and which we do not want to access it.
Correct.
But we don't want to delete it as well.
Yes.
I mean,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many of the banking domains, for that matter, for all the record keepings and all,
Correct.
most of it get archives.
Correct. There are various compliance requirements as well. Government mandatory things are there. If you keep your data, say like your website is having some kind of financial detail, they will ask you to keep the content of your website for next 5 years. And anybody goes to court of law and challenges, that time they will ask you to produce that data. Right? So they will not ask like, okay, immediately now you just give me that data within 1 minute. That's not the requirement. Okay, next hearing, you come with the data. Okay, so you have time, right? So depends like, how much you can wait for your data. So that will be asynchronous. That won't be synchronous. So as Rahul asked, right, for a standard IA. So that is synchronous. Whenever you want.
So we can, in terms of this, we can say like, I can give one example of this, like our mail client Outlook. We have old mails which we do not want to delete. We can archive and keep it in our system, right?
Yes, perfect example, Rahul. So that is what is archival means. So you don't want, as Shweta very well nicely explained that, right? So you want the data, but you don't want to
delete. So I'll keep it on archive.
Don't want to access it frequently, but you want it. You don't want to delete, right? Now that is the archival solution. Now for archival data, if you have to pay the price of so much, right? For say like standard class or something where for availability they are charging you, right? So that won't be good, right? You don't want to access it, and still if you pay too much, so that won't be a good idea. So cost is very important, and usually these archival this kind of data will be used. So you don't want to access it, then why you should pay the similar price? So there is an option that very low cost storage will be there, but it will be equally durable. Durability has no compromise. Equally durable, 11 nines of durability, right? And again, that safety and kind of whatever you want to keep that data, no problem, no problem. So that is fine. Yeah, so that's fine. So what happens is here the durability is good, right? And that means your data can remain intact, right? So durability of 11 nines are there.
Harish, what is this minutes to hour ranging in this S3 Glacier? Is
Correct,
it chargeable on the basis of minutes or hour? Is it like that or something else?
Yes, actually, yes. So depends on the size of the
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
and retrieval time. If you say like you request, you have to request.
Depends
for your
on the
data.
time. Yeah, it depends on the time in which we are going to use this data. So based
Correct.
on that, it will be the charge, right?
Correct. So it's like if you are like not in a hurry and say like you needed data for say like tomorrow or something, so it's fine. You just request for it, you will get it at the normal charges. But you want your data within 15 minutes, you have option, but that will be at extra rate, extra charges, right? So here what happens in case of Glacier and Deep Archive, as the name suggests, right? So the first one, right, from minutes to hours, but the second one, you see the Deep Archive, you want to keep your data for 99 years, right? What you will do, where you will put Deep Archive or normal Glacier?
We'll go for Deep Archive.
Yes. So that is the cheapest one. So the Deep Archive, right, will be for preserving for very long time. Usually, 5 years, 10 years, like that. Maybe 50 years, 99 years, 100 years. So that is like depends. So those situations you have cheapest option. And as we discussed, it is based on some regulatory rules and regulations, and financial organizations, they have to abide by law. They have to keep all the data. Now there can be court cases in the future. So anything might happen after 50 years, somebody might go to court of law. And then at that time, if you don't have the data, you will be in problem. You want to keep it. So simply throw it at no charges, right? Kind of negligible, and simply put it there. When you access, that time you have to pay for it. When you retrieve, then you have to pay for it. So we'll be I'll share some. I'll try to find that link, right? Or you just try to find that storage classes, right? So you'll find that link where you will have the pricing details, right, for all the storage classes. So they will not be asking the exact price of something from the examination point of view, but that understanding of, right, so you want long-term archiving for infrequently accessed data, right? So you should go for Glacier, and then they will give some indication like, okay, some financial organization or something is there, they want to archive the data, they don't want to access if data is available after a day or something, doesn't matter, they want to keep it for 10 years, right? They want the lowest cost storage option, all those things they will tell. Then you have to relate which one they are talking about. Are they talking about Deep Archive or they are talking about S3 Glaciers? I have one or two questions here, and then again towards the end of the entire course I will be having multiple questions, right? So we'll be discussing on that. So for now, and this RRS, I would never look at what it is, right? So this is, they have only mentioned not recommended, then I don't take a look at it, right? So this is for non-critical data, right? And this is not safe actually, right? So if you are fine to lose your data or something, so then you can go for it, right? So this is something RRS not recommended by even, I think they will remove it.
In this thing, in RRS, our data is not safe.
Right? No, that is for non-critical only. You see, if you have, say, like, you know your mobile number, you know your address, and you know, say, like, your all the details, you know all your friends' mobile numbers and all the details, you know something, and then you put that data, and if that data is deleted or something, still you have, you can reproduce that data. You just put it in RRS.
Means we have backup things. Things.
You have, yeah.
That's
so those kind of data frequently access, you can access, but no, kind of not critical. Doesn't.
We have already having some backup data with us. In terms of that, we can use RRS, right?
Correct. You got it. You got it perfectly. Yeah, as the name suggests, no. So like that only, and then kind of reduced redundancy they call it. So that is okay. So let's move on, right? Oh, so after storage classes, I have life cycle policy. So what do you think here? Life cycle policy. What is life cycle?
Life cycle means we can say life of any object.
Correct, no? So life of object, correct? So
Yeah.
that's correct only. So now set of rules that define actions to be applied by S3 on a group of objects, right? So the object will be created until the time object is destroyed. It can go through various different cycles, right? So called life cycles, right? So like our life cycle or like any life cycle, right? Life cycle of anything, right? So like that, this object has to go through various things, right? So it can go for transition, it can go for expiration, some kind of action you can take on that. So it's some transition action. So as you have just learned about the various types of storage classes, right? So you can understand, right, what is transition. What do you mean by transition? From one storage class to another storage.
Changes we can say changes.
Correct. So if one object goes from one object class, right, to another object class, one storage class to another storage class. So that will be transition. Expiration means what?
Expire means the date.
When deleting the data or
Yes, that's it. So expiration means data is not like no longer needed. So now it needs to be deleted.
Remove or delete.
Finished. That's it. Not required. Now, so that is the expiration. So you can, there will be certain transition actions, right? You can automate it. You can create a set of rules. That is what is lifecycle policy. Policy, you know, right? Some kind of standards for doing something, right? Policy is permission there in IAM, right? So similar to that, here you just understand it literally, right? However, that will be written like that.
We can say some rules. We can
Correct.
say rules.
Set of rules only, yeah. So you will just say that, okay, as soon as my bucket is created and some data is kept in my bucket, so keep it for 60 days in standard class, and after 60 days just move it to infrequent access category, right? And then keep it there for 1 year before you move it to Glacier, and in the Glacier you keep it for say like 6 months, and then you move it to Deep Archive for next 10 years, and then you delete it. Got it?
Yes.
So that is the life cycle of an object, and that is the policy, that is the rule that you can define. You have option to define it. Everything is there in the bucket. We just need to go to bucket and we will see it, know how we can do it, right? So now comes the cost pillar, right? So operational things, right? Kind of how we should choose, how we should operate, how we should do, how we can do the transition, how we can do the organization, how we can go for the sizing. So all those things are very important when it comes to cost pillar, right? How we can have better performance by keeping it in Glacier or by keeping it in standard class if we want to access it, right? So definitely I want better availability. I'll put it in the standard one, right?
Standard, yes.
I want it reliable. Where should I put? Should I put it in one zone or some 3 zone options? Apart from one zone, all are 3 zone, right?
Yes.
So we should put it in 3 zone. So that would be from the reliability perspective.
Availability will be more.
Correct. So like that, you have to think from various options. Like we discussed about various pillars, right? So how we can make it reliable, how we can have a better performance, how we can operate it easily on that, how we can make it secure, how we can so security will go to bucket and we'll look at it, how we can make it more secure. Now comes the cost optimization. So cost optimization is how to avoid the unnecessary cost. That is the cost optimization, that is cost optimization pillar. We discussed in well-architected diagram, well-architected framework, right? So this cost optimization is an very important pillar. It's a very important. So just take a look at object size. Can it impact the cost?
Yeah, more the size, more the cost.
Yes. Duration, for how long you want to put it there. Can it impact the cost?
Yes.
Okay.
If you
You
want
want good redundancy. Can it impact the cost?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
How?
It would depend on the number of the zones in
Yes.
terms of the
If
redundancy.
you go for one zone, less redundancy, right?
Yeah.
Or you go
3
for
zones will be more.
reduced redundancy, that RRS, some obsolete option was there, right? Not recommended option. If you go for all those, right? So it will be cheaper, right?
Right.
So you have to take into account all these things, right? And then you have to design your architecture, where you want to put the bucket, what kind of object should be there, what class you should use, right? So all those things you have to well plan. You have to just look at it. You have to monitor. You have to analyze time to time, right? You have to do all those assessments, right, to reduce the cost, right? So you have to avoid anything which is unnecessary. Simply, you cannot put everything in standard class and then simply you say that, okay, fine, my work is done. Not like that. Now availability. So availability will also impact, how we saw, like 99.99, 99.9, 99.5. So if you go for lower availability, obviously the price will be cheaper, right? Now access frequency. Access frequency, can it impact cost?
Yes. Yes.
So you will have charges based on the access. If it is not standard, if it is something else, if it is infrequently access, they are charging you high, they are charging you low for infrequent access. And then if you start accessing very frequently, right, because that is for infrequent access and you kept data there and you are accessing it very frequently, now think, you will incur charges for accessing it, and it will become costlier than the standard class only. So you thought of saving cost and you lost money there. So that is what is designing well architected framework. Now you just look at performance. If you want better performance,
Yeah, you have to pay more.
correct? Object tags and prefixes, is it important?
Not sure. I don't
No,
know.
it will be otherwise, retrieval will be difficult if it is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Retrieval will be difficult. And
Difficult.
then with respect to cost, Shweta,
Yes, because based on the tags, the costing happens.
perfect, perfect. So based on the tag, you can analyze, right, which has taken my money, which object has taken my money. So now you are putting a tag, that project name and project number, that particular project, and you are putting that tag in your object. And then what is happening? Now, based on all the objects that are having the tag of project, financial project, or some particular project number 10, now you just try to get the detailed consolidated list where you will find that, oh, this is the project which has taken all my money. You can analyze it. So these tags are very important from point of view of operations, how you handle them, how you delete them, how you manage their life cycle, how you do things with them, how you access them. All those things are there. But apart from that, from cost perspective, right, how you can get a report based on the various combination of tags and prefixes, right, how you access them, how you find out what has taken your money, right? So you can analyze. So that is important. Now what? Best storage class. You have to decide. Correct? No?
Yeah,
So
depend on the
cannot,
storage, which class, which we chose, we have to pay.
is it the best one? That you have to decide. If it is not the best for your use case, then what? You are unnecessarily paying extra money. So you have to, first thing is to choose the best storage class. If you have some kind of data for which you don't know the access pattern, what you will choose? Obviously, you will choose for that intelligent tier, right? Now, storage class analysis. It's not that you have decided, you have designed, you have left it, and now you are taking rest. It's not that. You have to analyze at a later point of time, from time to time, periodically. You have to analyze, what is the storage class that you are using? Is it the right one? Right? How much access has happened for that infrequent storage class? So that you have to find out. If it is not correct, right, you have to move it to standard one, or you have to think of intelligent tiering. Life cycle policy, important, right? Life cycle policy can impact the cost,
Yes, definitely.
Yes, yes.
right? So you keep whatever log is there, you are putting it in standard class, and that log you don't want your management, they want some report from the log maximum for 1 month. They will be saying like, okay, give me previous month's report. So you will be giving some previous month's report or something, right? For that you require only 1 month data. So you can put a life cycle policy that, okay, 1 month you keep it, or 45 days you keep it in standard one, then I don't want. Or standard also not needed, infrequent access is fine. So let me put it there for infrequent access category. I will have to access 1 or 2 times only. I don't want to access it 100 times every day. So why should I put it in standard one? So you decided on the best storage class, and then you decided on, you analyzed it, and then you are putting it in some policy there. So every 45, after 45 days of creation of the object, right, you just move it to where? Glacier only. Put it in Glacier, don't want. Or you can put it in, after 1 year, you can put it in deep archive if it is needed, or delete it. That life cycle policy is for expiration also, right? So delete it after 1 year. Don't want any logs or system logs or any kind of log after 1 year or something. So not needed. So that's it. Delete it. Put some rule. You don't have to do it. You put some policy that they will, that will be automated. Intelligent tiering, as we discussed, right? So, so you just take a look here. The 4 things important is one thing is application requirement, right? What exactly you are looking for. So that the very first thing, whenever you are doing anything, right? Not only with this designer. So you just have to focus, a lot on the requirement, what you want, why you want, what is needed, right? So that's the most important part when you begin anything in your life. Now the next thing is data organization, right? So how data needs to be organized, right? So whether you want it in a particular way, you just don't want to access it, you just want to put it somewhere and throw it, right? Now, right sizing, correct? Decide on the category, right? So what kind of size you are looking for. So here the best part is you just keep the data, it is elastic, you just put it, it will grow and it will shrink based on the usage. So there is no problem with respect to the size of the bucket or something. You don't have to decide. But here it's like kind of what is the size of your object, right? So if the size of the object is very huge, so transfer rate, just understand that in object storage, what happens, the entire object, even if you make a little bit of modification in the object, and that is 1 GB data, and you modified 100 bytes of that, so entire object will be copied there, right? So now that bandwidth utilization will be there. So what is the size of your object, where you are putting it, in which class, right? So based on various factors, requirements, and availability factors, right, you are putting somewhere, then you have no choice. But if it is like availability of 99.5% is okay, or 99.9% is okay, then you can think of the size, right? And then decide, what is going to cost me less. And then if you do a mistake, not an issue. You can go back again. You can analyze it, the access pattern, everything, and then you can change it. So you also always have option to go back and fix the things that you have not managed well. Now, monitor, analyze, and optimize. So that is what I discussed just now. You need to monitor, you have to analyze, and then you have to optimize it, right? So that is about cost optimization. So I have a couple of slides before we go to some one question, right? So then after that we'll take a quick break, right? So before we go for a break, just to take a look on this particular service offered by this our AWS, right? Amazon. So Snowball, anybody heard about it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what it is? What do you think? What it is used for?
No, it is a okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Buddha.
Go ahead, Shaila.
Okay, so it is instead of getting everything transferred over the internet or the links, data links and all, what they do is they send this entire like a hard disk. It's a encrypted hard disk or something you can call, and they send it directly to the on premise where the data is all stored into it, and it's a highly protected things. The thing is,
Yes.
it is not done over the internet and all. It is more to do locally rather
Physical
than
transfer.
physical transfer. Yeah.
Okay, good, perfect. So so this is a data migration service kind of, right? So here you'll have, as Shweta talked about the security. So yes, it is very secure, and this device, right, is highly portable, right? And this device you call it as Snowball, right? And the service you call as Snowball service, right? So if you want to transfer really large amount of data, right? Really large amount of data for normal data, right? So you don't need this kind of services, right? So when it comes to say like terabytes of data, say like 50 terabyte, 100 terabyte, I have to transfer. So when it comes to that, so it will be really from one S3 to another S3, that sequential access will happen, and then you'll continue to transfer, and I'm not sure when it will, how many months it will take to migrate an entire thing, right? So you will have some kind of option for transferring your data from in and out of from inside AWS to outside, from one premises, from one S3 to another S3, from your S3 to client's S3, from client's on premises to your S3, from your S3 to clients on premises, whatever. So there will be something like Snowball Edge, right? So that Snowball Edge device, right? There will be two types, right? So let me quickly just try to draw some diagram. One moment. Okay, so you have like Snowball Edge devices, right? So you can have like two types. Various members are there in the family, smaller and bigger, and elders and smaller. So a lot of things. But here, just take a look at Snowball Edge devices. So there is a device which has say like 40 vCPUs. Right? Now it can transfer say like 80 terabyte. It can take 80 terabyte of hard disk that you talked, right? Now, actually it will be 100 terabyte, but there will be a lot of other overheads, right? So some kind of metadata and other aspects. So some 20 terabyte, you just keep it free. So that is not useful for you, right? So what is that 80 terabyte hard disk? That is a hard disk drive. That is actually a secure hard disk drive, right? So when I say hard disk drive, right? So it is kind of directly accessible block storage. What is that? Block storage. And you know that block storage are faster, right? Block storage are the fastest ones, because how the data is arranged and how the data is modified, how the data is accessed, right? How it is arranged, how it is accessed, how it is changed. All those things are quite different in block storage, right? So it will be as per the block level. So it will be directly accessed. The blocks will be, hardware will be directly accessed. So there is nothing in between. So it will be very fast, very high performance. Okay. Now there is something, another brother of it, right? Which we, so this one we can tell, we can name it as storage optimized. So I can say it is a storage optimized option. So when you go to choose what you want, that time you have to choose one storage optimization. So another thing is like compute optimized, right? Compute optimized, right? So what will happen in compute optimized? There will be more CPUs. Obviously, compute means what? CPU. So instead of 40 vCPUs, they will have here some, say like 52 vCPUs. If I remember it correct, 52 vCPUs. Okay, so here you have how many? 40. Here you have 52. Right. So just go through the theoretical aspect of it. Just for your understanding, I'm discussing the type of edge devices. One is like storage optimized, another is compute optimized. So which one you should choose, right? Depends. Correct. Here you have option for only 42 terabyte of storage. So here you have 42 terabyte of storage. Again, here you will have something more, and then usable is this much that I remember. Right now, here you have options for what? Anybody heard GPU?
Graphical processing unit.
Yes, that graphics processing unit. How you have central processing unit, that CPU thing. For similar to that, you have something like GPU, right? So relatively newer concept, right? But this particular one is supporting GPU, right? But the other one, the storage optimized one, is not supporting GPU, right? So anybody wants to discuss on GPU? Anybody want to detail it? What it is exactly? Nothing to get confused or something. P for processor only. That's it.
For processing graphical images and videos, it is used. GPU.
Yes, yes.
For fast processing, it is used.
Yes, perfect. It is optimized for that. Santosh, right?
Yeah, Santosh.
Yeah. So thanks, Santosh, for bringing that. So that's the thing actually. So this GPU is for processing the graphics, right? At a various level, right? So that will be having a special kind of cores. That normal CPU will have some different type of core. This will have some specialized core meant for what? Graphics processing only. Different type of architecture will be different actually from CPU to GPU. Architecture will be different. So different type of options. So just remember from this point, what you need to remember is compute optimized, right? Is having that option for optional feature you are having. You can choose if you want. Now, so what is this snowball? What are the benefits now? So you can close it. The benefits you can summarize. So main thing is what it is addressing: the challenges of transferring massive data. Yeah, correct. Huge data. The challenges of transferring huge data it is addressing, right?
And it's also doing a physical lift and shift.
Yeah, it's doing physical lift and shift, and you are saving on your bandwidth
Not,
cost also, right?
yeah, not only on the bandwidth, but also on time, because if I'm doing over the
Yes.
wire transfer, I would take more time.
Yes. So time, right? And bandwidth cost, right? And then there may be a situation where you don't have internet use that internet connection only, right? Possible? Your
Yeah.
bandwidth is like such that it will take 1 year. Possible? So there are different situations where, or it's see, because it's not like the company is not having the money or something. Just because it's in a location where there is no internet, much internet facility only. What if it is on a ship? Correct, no?
Yeah.
So there can be any situation. You think of a situation where that internet connectivity may not be, perfect, right? The bandwidth cost may be higher than this particular cost, right? Time, no, you want it fast, right? And again, some kind of poor connectivity or something, right? So you can, no, so that is what. So extreme remote location, whatever you may think of, some kind of military location where there is no even kind of mobile connectivity or something, right? Just think of it. You think of it and think of this solution and just apply it. It will be, great option, right? So there will be kind of snow family. So just I request you all to go and read, right, about some theoretical aspects of it after this discussion, because you may not remember it, right? So there will be kind of different members of the family that I was telling, right? So there can be something like snow cone, right? That will be smallest member, that will be 2 kg, 8 terabyte storage will be there. There will be something like snowball that we have been discussing, right? There will be something like snowmobile, right? Snowmobile, right? So hundreds of petabytes to exabytes scale of migration that will be there. That will be like 45-foot long container, very big. You see here some small containers, right? So that will be 45-foot long shipping container. There will be GPS tracking. There will be CCTV one. You will have dedicated security staffs there, right? You will have one more vehicle apart from this, like how some PCR will be escorting the VIPs, like that. This truck will be there. With that truck, there will be one. Kind of jeep or some kind of other vehicle where security people will be there escorting this truck. So that much to that level they do things. So from starting from the very basic thing to a very high level option, right? So if you just go and try to find out, you'll get it. So you I'll just give you link. Let me find for you. So kind of it should be aws.amazon.com. So usually it will be kind of documentations, whatever it is. Very simply they have placed on their website. So simply if you remember Snowball, you just click on this and you just go to Snowball, right? Correct. Now you have this 1 minute 44 seconds of introduction. You just go through this video, right? You just try to find out, just go through this family, right? Just try to find out, just try to open it, right? So all those things are not in detail in our syllabus. However, I have tried to touch upon all these points, right? So you see snow cone, right? I talked about snow cone little bit. Smaller one, 2 kg one. Just go through this small video, 2 minutes or something. So you will see what is snow cone, right? How people are using. See other family members, snow cone, snowball, snowmobile. Right. So all those features are there. You see this truck, huge, right? So this is the one 45 feet I was telling, right? So kind of that much massive data you can. You see the comparison of the feature here. So see 42, this data transfer 100 petabyte. So just go through this table. Let me ping you the link for just for memory purpose. So give me a moment. Let me click on that. I'm audible, right, to everyone? Somebody, everyone
Yes,
is
yes.
there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Harish.
All members are there, right? 1 minute. Okay. Yeah, all are there, I think. Yeah, fine, perfect. So whenever you get a chance, be one in meeting. Okay, this was not correct. So just go through it. So whenever you try to find out more information, please don't go anywhere outside AWS. Right? Go to AWS. You have all the details, authentic details, to the point details. No, perfect thing. You will know where you will find this much of information. Whether it is any document or anything from external people, know where you will find this much of information. That is my guarantee. Everything is there, right? So that is what I liked a lot about AWS, right? So all the information, everything is there, right? And too much information actually. So you have to just choose. You see these FAQs. If you just click on these FAQs, this is the best place actually. The most I like about the documentation. Whenever I have some doubt, whenever I think of something, I find it here, right? Rarely I find some question where no, I don't have any answer in FAQ, and then I have to think of it. I have to analyze it. I have to break my head finding out googling it. But again, no, I might find it again finally on AWS blog or AWS developers related thing, or some kind of architect's post, or something related to the people associated with AWS only. So you see this FAQ, what is the AWS Snow family, and all those details. You can go through the questions, and it's not about only Snow family. You have FAQs, right, for each and every services, and like this you can go to different tabs. If you want to know about this SnowCon, you can go there. You just want its feature and pricing, right? So you can go like that. So you can go back. You can open it in a new tab. You want Snowball, you can just open it in a new tab. You can just go like that. You can go to its pricing, right? So like this, you need to learn how to vary the information. So once you know the information, for on-demand use, you pay a service fee of this job, which includes 10 days of on-site Snowball Edge device uses. Now, you just, my request is to just go through, at least once all these documentations to understand, right, for how long you can keep the device, what is the charge for it, right, what is the service fee per job, what is extra day if you keep your device, right, data transfer cost is how much, right? So all these things you just try to go once, and then you see this based on the region, right, whether it is same or whether it is different. You see here it's different. So just take one look, no need to remember, right, but just take a look once. You go through it, whatever we are discussing, just try to explore once, so that it will remain forever in your mind, right? So that's what with that I don't think I have, what is that, closed my slide. So sorry about that. On the slide. Sorry.
Snowball is a device, right?
Yeah, actually we call it Snowball, or we call it Snowball Edge. So we discussed about that medium type one, right? So that is what. So that one storage optimized and one compute optimized you saw, right?
Yeah.
So that is what it is, a kind of device where you are having the features. You can choose which device you want, and then you can get that device. This device, you saw the photo, right? This device only. Okay.
Where we will use this device, means on cloud or physical?
You have to order this for this device actually. So once you order, it will come to you, right?
Okay.
And then you can use this service whenever. Say like what you have to do is on premise you have some data. Okay. So now what you want? You want the data to go where? To your client location in S3. Now,
Okay.
data you are having on-premise, just one case I'm telling you, right? You can have the vice versa. You can have a different use case. Just think of one use case where you have the data on premises. Okay, Rahul? Now, you want that on premises data to say like to go to your bucket only. You created one bucket in Ohio region, right? And you have here in somewhere in other region far away, you have some kind of data which you want to migrate from the on-premises to the cloud. Got it?
Right.
Now what you will do? You have to create a job request. You have to create a job request, right? So you will just look for it, right? You just look for snow, right? And you find snowball, right? You have option to fill your address. You have option to fill your options, whatever, how much data you have, what you want, when you want, everything, all these things you fill. You want a storage optimized, you want compute optimized, you want 50 terabyte, you want 100 terabyte. Now, based on that, you create a request. What they will do? They will prepare a device and courier it. How Amazon.com people are sending your goods to your home, right?
Yes.
They will be shipping it to you, right? So maybe some shipping options will be there, no? Standard shipping, 7 days, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. You have option, right? Like that, you'll get some option there. So you want within a day, you want it overnight, you want it tomorrow. So depends on which region you are and which option is supported there. Now, say like you chose 1 day shipping, right? So that device will be there at your location, at your office premises the very next day or the next to next day. Got it?
So they will charge some extra amount for that.
Yeah, shipping is fast and a little bit
they will charge
yeah.
something. Yes.
Correct, yeah. Shipping cost, whatever, little bit. Now, but the time is important, then you just go for 1 day. Now, you just got this device. Now, what do you have to do? You will find some kind of how you connect your that network cable to your laptop. Like that, you will have that RJ45 connector here. I don't see it here.
Right side, yeah.
So you just you have option for RJ45 normal that Ethernet cable will be there. No, so it's exactly that one only. You just connect it, right? And you have to do certain prerequisites will be there. You have to follow the instructions. Just transfer the data, fill it, right? So whatever terabytes of data you are having, just fill it, put it there. You want 1 device, you want 2 devices, you want 3 devices, how many are there, how much data you are having, depending on that, you fill it, make it ready, ship it back, right? Ship it back to AWS, right? What AWS will do? Directly connect to their S3 and put it there. Got it?
Yes.
So instead of going through all this network, it went physically your data reached there, right? So I hope I'm clear on this topic. Fine, everyone, you understood the basics and the operations.
Is this possible to send data?
Send data means?
Sorry.
Get the data.
I just want to say that. No. I just want to say that is this possible to copy the data without network? It's not.
How you will connect this device?
So it's over the LAN. It's getting copied over the LAN.
Correct. Oh, you are looking for Wi-Fi or something?
Yes.
No Wi-Fi.
This is
no
not
Wi-Fi.
possible. No Wi-Fi.
No.
Only through LAN cable, right?
Yeah. Correct. You connect the LAN, and that will be fast, no?
Transfer the data. Yeah.
That will be fast. You just connect it. All data you transfer, ship it back. That's it. You can do the vice versa. That's why I just made this truck going this way and that way also, right? So it took a lot of effort to find this truck.
So Harish, Harish, so about this device, so is it only compatible with the AWS storage blocks like S3 only, or can it be compatible with any other on-premise storage? For example, I can take this service as just to transfer the data rather than
you can take it.
I don't want to put it on AWS, but I can put it in my other data center, my on-premise data center.
You can do it. You can do it. Yeah, yeah. So see, it's just like simple device only, simple hard disk. How earlier days we used to carry our pen drives, right?
Yeah.
Give me that 1
I
GB.
think
Yeah,
in that picture that block, that is a hard
just
disk
one
only.
example, for example, because practically what happens is that people know they will be migrating to cloud. They will be looking for this service. So they will be saying like, okay, I want to migrate my on-premises thing to cloud. So they'll be looking for on-site storage from on-site to that one. So just for example, but you can do it. Okay. So
Okay.
you have
We have
simply
different storage device, right?
there are
Means
different
normal
I just gave the link, no? So if you go
Uh-huh.
through it, you will find that you have
Okay.
various options for that. Different sizes will be there, different purpose will be there, different cost will be there, right? So based on that, different region can have different costs. Some regions may not have that. No, you saw the big truck available, right? If you want that truck to come to your location here, it will not come. So you have to look for which region that option is there, right? And what kind of, usually UPS service will be there in US, right? So that UPS people are doing it there. So you have to look for the options, right? What are the options? What kind of courier services? What kind of things? Which region? How much cost? Do entire analysis. Then you take a decision.
We'll go for modern.
Yes, but this is something promising, and for large scale data transfer for this is perfect thing, and security and network and a lot of things. So this is a good thing. Okay, file gateway, volume gateway.